Hello guys, hope you're doing very well. So I'm from here, from Malaga, and if I don't look alike, and I actually have said I love sports. So if you stay here a little bit more, maybe I can organize some hiking for you, okay? Just to speak me later. All right, so I know it's been a very intense day that you had lunch now, so hope you could rest a bit and have now the energy to enjoy this session too. So today I'm gonna talk about auditing and how AI could and is impacting the field of auditing. All right, but let me introduce myself a little bit. Me, I'm working at EY Global Delivery Services. It's an international company that is based in many countries like Mexico, Poland, Argentina, also from Philippines, Sri Lanka. And from all these countries, we are trying to provide services related to assurance, also to taxes. We also work in the consulting technology field. And we are working to our clients all over the world. All right, so me, personally, I'm working in the field of auditing, in assurance in concrete. I think that I was given this opportunity because some years ago, we entered in a project, in an audit project, related to a listed company, very huge, and we had to audit this company with a new approach. This company was specialized in software and mainly in the tourism sector. So what we were able to do, analyzing this company, was to centralize all the job from Malaga, because before we had to study all the subsidiaries and make the audit from each country. And what we did like this, applying the new approach based in data analytics, was to have a lot more quality because we better understood how the business was. And also, we had the opportunity to save significantly on cost when we made everything from Malaga, all right? So, as she has mentioned, I love sport. I have practiced it almost everything, climbing, American football, scuba diving, tennis, basketball, and I love challenges, this is the point. Now the challenge is not anymore in the auditing sector just to use data analytics, it's also on how to integrate AI in our processes. So this is a real challenge, and I love challenges, and I have the same feeling that I have when practicing a sport, the same energy, the similar vibe, when trying to work with my colleagues to develop the better tools, the best tools in this area. But the objective is not just to speak about auditing, to know how AI can impact this sector. It's above all to open your mind and trying to know that innovation and the use of technology can be done in many, many sectors, because auditing has been very traditional until some years ago. It's just to open your mind. This is mainly the objective of the session. So, what are we doing in auditing? Just in a small context, because we are not going to focus too much on auditing as such, okay? But some people, they just think that we are obsessed with money. Some other people, what they think is that we are just business people trying to wear nice suits, and this is maybe sometimes true. But from other point, the clients, the accountant, they think sometimes that what we are doing is just to ask for too much documentation. So they are fed up of us, to be honest. But now being more serious, the key question is why we do what we are doing. The answer is crystal clear, and it is about the impact that auditing has in the economy. Because with our work, what we are doing is to promote transparency and accountability. We are also encouraging investment and public participation. And finally, what we are doing is to mitigate financial risk. In our day-to-day, to achieve that, what we try to do is to focus always, me and my team, to focus on quality and trying to provide the best long-term value proposition to our clients. At the same time, we try to become the best advisors for them and that they could really confident on us, all right? So this is mainly the idea of what is auditing, and now we can focus a bit more on the application that the AI have in our fields. The most important are, of course, related to actionable insight and analysis. We also worked to automate some processes. We are also trying to mitigate the fraud risk and other risks analysis. And lately, I'm going to speak a little bit on how we can try to improve the continuous monitoring. So, from the first point, actionable insight and analysis. As we work with large amount of documentation, the first thing we can do is to work with this data analysis, no? So speaking about the first point, in the past, the way, for example, to validate revenues was to make a sampling of all the revenues that a company had, and then analyze a huge amount of the invoices from this sampling, okay? Now, it is completely different because we have the opportunity to work with the entire population, and we see all the revenues that a company have, the 100%, and from our understanding on accounting of how it works, they should go to trade receivables. When you sell a product or you provide a service, you are accounting your revenue to trade receivables. And finally, some months later, it is cashed in when your client finally pays you. So the best proof to check that the revenues are real, that they exist, that they're not fictitious, that the company is not trying to inflate revenues to give more confidence to their stakeholders and show that they have a lot of wealth, is that these revenues are finally being cashed in. So as I mentioned, what we can do is to see this difference between the revenues and the trade receivables. If not the 100% of revenues are going to trade receivables, we can focus and analyze the 20% that is not rational and ask the company and try to look for an answer. Same thing when the trade receivables are not being cashed in. If there is another difference of 20%, 15%, we can see the breakdown and try to validate this, okay? So it has really changed the way we can approach it. And all this information, it's highlighted automatically. And that's the key point. So other anomalies that we can identify, because we have seen this example between trade receivables and cash, other anomalies that we can identify easily is the following. Imagine an employee who is working for a company, and this employee is posting entries in a weekend. Or maybe this employee is posting an entry in an area where it has no authority. So again, with this technology, what we can do is to highlight much better and identify much better those risks inside the company. Maybe it is rational, maybe it had a deadline and had to work on weekend, or maybe profit this opportunity to do something that wasn't right. Okay, regarding pattern detection, that is the point number 3. We can see, for example, in a company, imagine a company that is working in the toy sector that we are trying to audit. What we can try to do is to check if they are having most of the activity in Christmas. From our understanding, what we have to see is that this company that is selling toys should have in this period in Christmas most of the activity. So once we can see that it doesn't happen, that maybe the peak is in another period of the year, or maybe the sales are flat, it's when we have to ask. I'm providing you the ideas, but the key point and the easy thing is that this technology, what can help, is to highlight all this information. And for this reason, I spoke at the beginning about opening your mind and having the right conversation with the people to go forward. So this pattern can be identified. And with patterns, we can also make predictions. Let's imagine that based in the historical analysis of a company, we see that there is, for this toys company, an average growth of 10%. That in 2020, the sales growth 9%. In 2021, the growth was 11%. For 2022, 13. In average, it's 10% more or less. So we can expect the same growth for the next year. And again, once it doesn't happen, when it is not accomplished, the system can tell us for year 2023 that we expected that, finally, it didn't really happen. So like this is what we try to work, all right? So also, regarding data classification, it's super important for us because we have to have very clear and map all the information Once we map this information, we know what is an expense, what is an asset, what is an income. We can really understand better the things. So if all this mapping is performed automatically, we are really reducing the time that we require to do so. Let's go to the next point, that is the process automation. As I mentioned at the beginning, in order to give evidence and to say that the company has the amount that they have and the accountability is what it is, we have to analyze large amount of information. For example, invoices, agreements. We also have to analyze bank statements of the company. So what we can do is to extract all this relevant information from these documents. For example, due dates, for example, the amount, or who is the third party, to effectively check, upload all this information to the system, and we don't have now to be copying and pasting all the information in an Excel. It just goes directly to the auditing system, okay? So, other example for the identification of suspicious transactions. Imagine now that in a company, what we have is an account that wasn't active for 3 years. This account had no activity. And this year has activity. So the point here is that, again, it is highlighted automatically. We can now ask the company why it has activity this year. Why? Maybe you are selling a new product, or maybe you have any other concern that we have to bear in mind. But it's really reducing the amount of human errors and putting the focus on the higher values task. For the reconciliation analysis, I provide you other example. Something that I'm going to explain you a little bit what is reconciliation with this example. Imagine a company, in order to validate the amount that this company have in accounting in the bank account, what we do is to go to the bank, to the third person that is an independent opinion, and we ask, how much money do this company have in their, they really have? So the company is saying that maybe they have 500,000 euros, but when we ask the bank, they only have 450,000 euros. So the way to really know what is happening there is to take the breakdown of the accounting, seeing all the movement that they have in accounting, and we check and tie this difference, that it is what we call reconciliation, with all the movements that we have in the bank account. So the point is that if it's not performed manually and we can check the difference with this technology, again, we are reducing a lot the effort and the time we need to do so. Most of the time, just to tell you, a bit on the auditing field, it's not related to any real fraud or something like this. It's just because, as you know, when you make a payment, maybe it goes 3 years later or something like this. When we do the analysis, it's on 31st of December. So maybe there is a day lag, and for this reason you find the difference. But anyway, it's not that important now, but we can really tie difference from different things, okay? So, for the internal control analysis, I'm going to give you also another example. The system can detect, for example, that the same person is posting entries related to expenses and entries related to payments. From an audit perspective, this is not rational, and we have to have segregation of duties. Why? Because one person could decide, hey, company, you have to pay that. And you, once you say, hey, company, you have to pay that, you make the payment, and the money is going to you, to your own bank account. So it's better to have segregation of duties. One person is inside of saying what you have to pay, and the other person is in charge of, in fact, making the payment. Everything can happen, but it's more difficult when they have to coordinate, all right? So the key point is that the system can detect that one person is doing that, and later on even more, based on the talent capacity of the company, we have the possibility to decide who is the best profile to be doing the expense entries or the payment entries to have this duty from now on, okay? So this is an example of internal controls that can be identified and later on mitigated. Also, regarding report generation, we have many reports and it can be done automatically, just updating dates or things like this that doesn't change too much. For the fraud identification, the first point is regarding anomalies, no? Yeah, I had a doubt at this moment, sorry guys. All right, it's regarding anomalies. These anomalies can be due to human errors, but also, not only for human errors, as I mentioned before, maybe the person that committed this mistake was with an interest, no? So I'm gonna give you 2 examples that are point number 2 regarding travel expenses, and also point number 3 regarding the supplier's activity. So imagine that the system detects that an employee is having a lot more travel expenses than the average of the rest of their colleagues. So the amount is much higher. But even more, it's not just about the amount. We can put in the algorithm that they have to check the frequency. And if the frequency they have, even if the amount is the same of the average of the rest of their colleague, it could be highlighted, but because maybe this worker is giving invoices that they are not really related to the business of the company. And what we can propose when we see it detected, first to look at the rationality. Maybe it's an outlier item, but it's rational. It makes sense, and due to something, this worker has more activity. But if not, again, we can propose a second review of approval of these expenses, or a review after all these payments are done based on the frequency and on the amount, to put someone in charge of that. All right, so for the supplier, something similar. Imagine now that in a company, we see that an employee is paying to a fictitious enterprise that in fact doesn't exist, deviating the money that we were mentioned. So the point now is the following. What we can detect is that the code of this business it doesn't appear in the official systems of the Spanish regulations. It can be automatically identified. Or even if the supplier is not fictitious and really exists, the system could detect if they are maybe inflating the prices. They are paying 12 euros for products that in fact are only 10 euros. They are paying more than what the company that these employees work and the third party agreed in a contract. So the system could identify that. Maybe, as I told you, because of a human error, or maybe because have an interest and agreement with the other company that is the supplier, or whatever. But it's much easier to identify and highlight these differences. All right, for the text analysis, network analysis, and image and video analysis, I'm gonna do it a bit together, okay? Because there are legal concerns that we have to bear in mind, and also ethical. The point here is that we can see the emails of the companies or maybe other network activity and communication they have. Unlike this, we can do it based on keywords and key sentences, look for indicative of fraud in those communications. With the image video is one step forward, because what we can do when analyzing is by using the cameras of the company and all the stuff, and by facial recognition, try to investigate and think if this person is trying to commit fraud. But just to talk about the potential that we have, because it's not an easy thing, all right? So let's go to speak a little bit now about the risk analysis. The point here is that, again, we can analyze and see if we have frauds. And for the regulatory and compliance, we can detect some patterns based on all the regulation that we have, and check if it is accomplishing or not. For example, once we work with foreign accounts and things like this. Oh, sorry, I have to go back. All right, so for the third point, that is the financial risk, we can see if the company has liquidity enough and solvency. It means that they have the capacity to make the payments in the short run, there's the liquidity, and in the long run, for the solvency, no? If they have money enough to meet their obligations. The point here is the following, that we can check historical data and the data for the company to have this information automatically again. And for cybersecurity analysis, the same. IT teams goes into the system of the companies and they check if all the information that we extract for the financial statement are right or not. If there is integrity, if nobody is doing any movement and doing anything wrong. In general, just to go into the systems, check that there is no weakness, and if in case there is, proposing how to mitigate that. All right, so, for the last point, I put it just anomaly detection and task automation, but it's more in general. I mean, here the key point is the idea of changing completely the workflow that has traditionally been in the field of auditing. The way of working before was doing, okay, let's analyze fiscal year 2022, from January to December of this year. And in year 2023, in the months of January, February, March, April, the beginning of the year, we go back and analyze all this amount of information. But now, with this technology, what we can do is to have real-time alerts and see if something is happening. All these anomalies we were talking about, detecting it at real time. Which are the benefits? First, if there is any mistake, it is corrected in March, let's say, when we see it, and they are not gonna do it again for the rest of the year. So we are reducing the number of mistakes. Also, we can do it, what we can also do is to improve a lot the busy season. Those 4 months that we have in year 2023, trust me, are absolutely crazy, the amount of work that we have there. So we can make much flatter the way we work, and like this, we can go deeper, have more time to check everything, and have better mental health, let's say, as well. All right. So, in general, I have given some examples, but I just want to make a summary. For the first point, we are working in the field of auditing with large amount of documentation, so we can extract really valuable information. For the process automatization, what we can do is to automate those tasks that they are very repetitive and manual. Regarding the fraud identification, we can go deeper and detect things that were undetected in the past. And same thing for the risk analysis. And what I told you just right now with the continuous monitoring, that we can reduce our busy season and go much deeper. Okay, these are more or less the benefits that we could have in applying this technology. But we have also to bear in mind all the challenges that we have forward. Why? The first of all is that we have to keep developing a lot of this, because many things I mentioned, they are not 100% implemented. And I said at the beginning with the sport, it is a huge challenge what we are doing there. But also, what you know is the bias of the algorithm, because if we have to be super sure that the information we are working with is absolutely correct. If not, our base disappear. So there we are working hard too. And finally, the audit people, the financial people, we need to have the right skills to apply these tools, because if not, everything is crazy, because the change, the mindset, it's not anymore the way we were doing in the past. So it changes a lot. So in general, the conclusion is the following. Overall, AI has the potential to significantly enhance the quality and efficiency of financial auditing. But it's important to address all the challenges I have mentioned before, that they are among others. There are many others, regulations and things like this, as I mentioned. But like this, we can ensure that it is used, very importantly, responsibly and ethically. Okay, this is more or less the conclusion I wanted to say about the AI. Just to highlight another, it's not that new, but I just wanted to mention now, it is everything from the AI part, but other applications in the audit sector of some technologies that nowadays they are not that new, but we are trying to implement, okay? And it is drones. With drones, we can check the facilities of a company and really check if all the plant equipment that they have, the buildings, the machinery that a company have, they are really in good condition and being used properly. Also, for the inventory analysis, we can check all the products that the company is supposed to be selling and check if there are no theft or no losses, mainly in those hard-reaching areas. Same thing for compliance. We can check if a company is accomplishing the regulatory things and accomplishing with environmental law or workforce law directly. And if a natural disaster happens, what we can check is how to repair it and how to value and estimate the cost of reparation if a natural disaster happens to a company that we are auditing. So I think that this is everything from my side. I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you for coming. I am obsessed with time, so hope it wasn't very tough and you enjoyed your time. And that's it. Thank you also to my company for giving me the opportunity, and to Ivan that he has taught me almost everything I know from this area. That's it. Thank you so much.